Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and thanks for joining. Today we're going to go over the firmware you just installed in the previous video. If you have not checked out that video on how to get the firmware installed on your Artillery Hornet, please do so now. I'll put the link in the description and you can get caught up to everyone else, but that's okay. So my printer, I did upgrade the LCD to the RGB. So it does do the color changing, and it does change colors with the temperatures when I'm heating up and when I'm printing, which is pretty cool. So at a glance, I can just see, if it's bright red, then I know it's heated up, and if it's blue, it'll go from blue all the way up to a bright red. So that's how I know it's heating. It's the color temp stat. For the most part, yeah, and then you have to kind of make this a little wider because the reset button is about a ½ inch further to the right. But I'll put the link in the description to that display, and it's very simple to replace. You just need a new firmware so that you get the colors doing what you want them to do. But this is about the stock one. We're going to ignore the colors for now. This is for the stock one. And then I'll do the same video or add some bits if you have the BLTouch like this installed. All right, so, well, actually this video is for the BLTouch because it's the unified bed leveling firmware. So to begin, you have your info screen, which is the home. There is a 15-second timeout. If there's no action, then it'll go back to the home screen. Change media will switch from the SD card to the USB. Select for media is what you want to print. So I move that to the top of the menu. Motion is where you want to go to right after you print, or after you flash the firmware, because you want to make sure the homing is correct. You'll also find in here the unified bed leveling to get the new mesh. Your tramming wizard, which will use your probe to tram. We don't call it bed leveling anymore, we call it tramming. To tram the corners. That's what you want to do to get your corners nice and even. Thank goodness this Hornet, or these Hornets, come with fantastic the yellow springs, which they really don't bounce. You can pull a print that's finished off of the bed without an issue, and the springs will stay there. So I love these Hornets. Yeah, you can see it went back to the home screen. So you'll find your auto home, your individual axes, tramming wizard, bed tramming if you want to do it manually. It'll actually tell you, it'll go through and probe all four and then tell you the difference or what needs to be done. You can test your probe, deploy and stow. So it just deployed and stow, and it stows it. And then you can disable your steppers and things like that. All that's under the motion. And then let's go back down here. We have temperature. You can preheat your nozzle, preheat the bed individually. You can test your fans, and then these are the ones that I added for the most common PLA Plus and PETG. And then this will heat both. Actually, it'll do, if you pick the first one, it'll do both. And then you can just do the end or the bed if you want to do something or probe. I'm not sure why, but it's there. Okay, so that's temperature. And here's your configuration, and this is where you get your advanced settings. You can go to further advanced settings for temperatures and things like that. But your probe Z offset, this will help you set your Z offset, which I'll do in just a second. Controller fan, you really don't have to mess with. It's all automatic. All it does is turn on the fan at the back. And then BLTouch here, you can reset, self-test, deploy, stow. It'll just keep doing that. Stow. I'm not doing anything really because this fan is loud, so I'm trying to get as much audio with the fan off before I turn it on. And then software mode and high speed is on. So high speed on just means that when it's going to probe to the next spot, it's going to keep the probe down and move to the next spot. So if you turn it off, it'll pull the probe up and then deploy again. And so it puts some wear on the probe, so I just left it down and decided to raise the whole extruder and move it. No big deal. If you do upgrade your display, here's your lights. You can turn the lights on, turn them off. Light presets, you can go with the different colors: red, orange, not very orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then white. Whoops, white. And then you can go back to default, which is the exact color. We're pretty darn close. I had to look it up and do a lot of homework on this one, but of the Hornet. And you can actually custom lights. You can pick a different color if you want. Just pick your intensities, whatever you want, and set your color there, and then it'll come back to that color after a reboot. So that's the lights menu if you upgrade that. If that is not on the stock firmware or the BLTouch firmware. So I'm going to have 3 firmwares up. If you want to do a change filament, just come here, you hit change filament. I guess if you're going to do this before you start a print, that's fine. Usually what I do is I'll just do a preheat nozzle alone up to about 190, and then I just push the filament in with my hand, push it up through the Bowden tube till I see a little bit out, and then I pull it out as fast as I can, just so that I don't have a bulb blob on the tip, and it jams. So push it up, heat it up, push it out, and then wind up the filament, and done. And then I'll push the new one in instead of letting this thing, because it moves really slow. So it's on there if you guys want to do that, or you can do the change filament, the M600 in your slicer. But it's in there for whoever wants it. The other one was configuration, and then advanced settings is after you've homed and you can move the nozzle where you want it, then you can set your home offsets. You just hit that and it'll save that position as your home offset. I don't think anybody's ever going to have to do that, just because the BLTouch offsets will be in this firmware. If you print, let me move this back. If you print that, which that file is in the download, if you print that mount, that's going to be on the right hand side, then it's like a negative 51.6 or 56.1, one of those two numbers, plus 4, and then I just did a 0. This really doesn't matter. But if you do the other one, then it's probably going to be just a 56 and a plus 4 and a 0. But that's the mount for that, and those offsets are already in the firmware. Alrighty. All right, your max speeds. You can, if you want to crank it up, that's up to you. But you can go in here, change your max speeds. These are default from Artillery. They work great for me, so you can change them here. Acceleration, same thing. You can change your acceleration. These are also kind of default. I've tweaked them a little bit for what works the best and what doesn't, knock the printer around. So that works. But if you want to play, there you go. Input shaping, what everybody's been waiting for and talking about. This is your input shaping frequencies. This is stock. This is the settings from Marlin. I have not changed anything. There may be, print your cube, put your numbers in there, and you're done. So configuration, advanced, input shaping. Yep, none of these. This is default. So if you print the cube, then input the numbers there, and you're done. Or you can put them in the slicer. And all right, junction deviation, also stock. Probe offsets. This is where 51.6. There it is. Probe offset. That's like within a tenth or two. Which really not too important, because you can set that during print So here's your Z probe wizard, and this will do your Z offset. If I got that correct, that'll be the one. Steps per millimeter, don't mess with that. That's all stock from Marlin, unless you changed your stepper motors. Well, then you know what you're doing, and and there you go. That's where you can change them. So, and temperature. Okay, this is the important part right here. Hopefully you stuck around. So this is your temperature. You can play with your min and maxes if you want to try printing ABS or anything. 250 is the max from Marlin or from Artillery. And these settings, these should really be at the bottom, but there's no way to change it. So these numbers are your coefficients for MPC tune, which is right here. So when you're done, or when you start the printer after you've done a firmware flash, MPC auto tune is probably the first thing you want to do after you've homed and make sure homing is working. You're gonna do MPC auto tune. That's gonna go by itself. You can watch it in Pronterface. If you're connected, you'll see what it's doing, because it'll read out to Pronterface. And once that's done, and the reason I say you want to do that first is because if you do the PID bed, it should be here, it is, PID bed auto tune. If you do that first, MPC auto tune wants an ambient temperature and a nice cool bed so that it can do its tests. So if you do the bed first, you're gonna have to wait for this guy to cool down, for the bed to cool down and everything. So do the MPC auto tune first and then do the bed. Just do them in that order as they are. These are the numbers for my printer, which is probably the same for your printer. And those will be in the firmware. But you could vary, you know, depending on your ambient temperature, you could vary a few tenths of degrees. So definitely do that anyways. But if you don't, it's pretty darn close. And you'll know you didn't do a tune because your bed will not want to reach 60 degrees, or it'll take like an extra 2 minutes to get the temperature. So then you'll say, oh, I didn't do a PID. Here's your LCD contrast. If you want to change that, I like mine around 240. Just so I don't burn things in. Your LCD timeout, 1 minute. I have not, that's a new feature Marlin's kind of working on. I've not had that where it's supposed to turn off. I think this light back here does turn off, but and then it comes back on. And your hot and idle timeouts. Whoops, where did I go? There it is. If you want to turn off your hot and idle timeout for some reason, you can turn it off. 300 is 5 minutes, I think. Temperature is 180. So nozzle idle temp. So if it's sitting idle for more than 5 minutes, it'll go to 0, and that's that. So contrast, timeout, and then you got a couple of preheats. And if you make any changes, store your settings. And I think that should be good. The next video I'm gonna actually turn on the printer and do the homing and do the new mesh, because this video is it's 14 minutes already, and we'll go through actual motion in that video. All right, thank you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.